Hello all, welcome back to the channel. I'm Saurav Dhyani, and if you work with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, especially on reports, then this video is for you. Today we'll be talking about something that I see quite often being requested by customer and developers still do it with the old way, which is export to Excel functionality. And while it works in the past and still works today, it's still time consuming. It takes a lot of time to do that, and there are better ways you doing that in Business Central world using Excel layout. So let's get into it. If you have ever worked with Excel, export to Excel things, you might understand what all goes into it. It takes a lot of time to, write that code, arrange it as customer needs it, and make it so beautiful in Excel that customers at the end of the day like it. But there's a lot goes into there, and I was thinking what I should be talking about it because there was a question raised into the community, which if you are not part of, I would highly encourage you to join the community. The link will be in the description and the pinned comment, where somebody asks that, okay, I'm building an export to Excel and I have these challenges. Should I still stick to the legacy code or should I use Excel layout? So that's where it all comes down to. So I went back to a pretty old blog that I've written in Business Central World saying how you do an export to Excel. So let's quickly review it. So you first build something kind of an Excel header, which helps you to build the headers for your report. Excel layout, export to Excel headers, and then using the on after get record of that data item, you create the Excel body where you fill in all the fields that is requested by customers, saying, okay, I need item number, description, base unit of measure, and inventory. And then in the same way, you go ahead and write code to generate that Excel file and then open it as they need it. And then you add an action on page, and then user runs it and gets a plain whitelisted or simple export to Excel layout out of it. Now this is a simple report where people are not asking for groupings, people are not asking for totals and all, but there can be scenarios where it gets a little bit complex with the situation that I'm pretty sure you all have dealt with. So today what we'll try to do is see that can Excel layout do it with less efforts and less development, to say so, and see how it works. So our scenario is that a customer, like the simple scenario, is asking for an export to Excel of, let's say, the same table, item table, with the same set of fields that we were using earlier. And let's see how easy it is now with using Excel layout, and is it even possible or not. So stay with me and we'll see that. So if you haven't heard about Excel layout, let's take a moment to understand it. Excel layout is a native feature now in Business Central, which support Excel as a default layout for all Business Central report. Either it's a new report that you're building, which we will be building today, or if you are trying to add an additional layout to an existing Microsoft or a third-party report, you can just do that simply. What it does, it brings all your data that is defined on your AL file for the data set that you have built in, and then with your knowledge, and I would rather say with your customer knowledge, they'll be able to use all Excel related functionalities like pivot tables, charts, graphs, filters, multi-language support, and formatting, and everything that you know about Excel. You know, and I don't consider myself as an Excel expert, but I'm very sure that my end users are so much powerful and have so much knowledge about Microsoft Excel that they can make their reports the way that it makes their life simpler. And they don't need me to do that. They need the data that I can provide based on their requirement, and then they can play around with data the way they need in Microsoft Excel. So why we should be using Excel layout? Because they are easy to maintain. There's, you're not handling files movement here and there. There's not a developer need all the time. A developer is needed just to build the data set that an end user or a consultant can then draft a report out of it. It works on existing report. So if there's a report that comes from Microsoft and your end user doesn't like the output, they want to build it something user friendly or the business friendly need based on their requirement, they can do that. They can be reused across environment. So if you have a customer who build a very good report that seems very usable in other businesses, it can be easily ported to the other customers easily. It's easy to kind of ship them into your apps extensions that you make for app source, so that the multiple customers get the same output which you are trying to provide. And then it empowers your end user to build that design which satisfies their need to configure it and then save it back to Business Central. So let's get started with it. So for the easy part, what I have done is I have already created an action on the item list. I'm just trying to mimic the same scenario, and I've said that the action will run this report. So let's go ahead and build this report. Okay, so let me build a report. I'll name it with my prefix, and my source table is item. I would like to place it under report and analysis, and here I go ahead and go back and check what fields were requested in the earlier version when I built it. Customer wanted item number, description, base unit of measure, and inventory. So let's see here. Let's pick up number, which becomes my item number. Description, it should be somewhere here. Okay, then the request was to add base unit of measure and inventory. So let's do base unit of measure and inventory. Now inventory is a flow field, so let's see here. Okay, so once we do that, we have a skeleton of the report more or less built in, right? I see the caption available, the application area available. Now there are some properties that I would like to talk about before we move further, and this is not related to the Excel layouts but in general for the reports. Now if your report is not intended to modify a data for whatever reasons you do in some cases in reports, make sure that you set the property of data access intent to be read only. Now when you set this property, there's a huge performance improvement, because then it only tries to read the committed data into the table that are part of your data item. So make sure to very clearly specify that this report is meant to read the data from the system. It is not going to modify or write data back into the system. So specify it if you're very sure that this report is doing that. And then there is another property that I heard a question about, which is how many okay, let me see that. It is maximum database size included into the report. So how big is your data set, right? That kind of sets some parameter in the layout window, and I'll explain you as we go there. And I'll set it to 1000 because this is an item list. I think that with 1000 records, it'll be sufficient to get all the items that I have. Now that's being said, I have a request page which I don't need, so I can just go ahead and remove it. But I'll surely need a section called rendering. If it have, there's no snippet for it. So while building report in Business Central, make sure that you use the rendering section. And I'm maybe not using it the right place. I should be. Oh, okay. It needs, I need to make sure that I'm using the default rendering, which I'll do. Why you should be using rendering is because it gives you flexibility to define multiple layouts into it. Okay. So if you don't use the rendering section, and I'll call it built-in item list. This is my layout name, and then inside my layout I can define what kind of layout it is. I'm saying the caption of the layout will be item list. Okay, I need to say that I have a layout file placed somewhere. So I need to specify that. I'll do that. And then I also need to set the anything else. I don't think. Yeah. If you want, you can set other properties, but these are the minimum set of properties that you need to build in. And here is another. Oh, I forgot to specify type. Okay, so the type is what kind of layout it is. You have options of custom, Excel, RDLC, and Word. We are making an Excel layout, so I'll define it as Excel. And then I need to make sure that this error goes away when I specify the default rendering layout. Now, default rendering layout will be used if there are multiple layout. Which layout gets selected automatically is the layout that is named like this. If you have multiple layout which you can add, then user can choose, but by default this layout will be picked up that you can define as a developer. So now let's define the file path that we want. So I'll place it under here and I'll call it this. Okay, sounds good. Now I don't see the file, but I think I need the captions for all these fields. Okay, include caption as 2. Okay, sounds fair. So I have added all the fields that I needed. I have set the captions to be available whenever needed, so I'll get the captions there. Now at this data item level, I can do a calc field of inventory so that it gets calculated. Okay, am I doing something wrong? Yes, I should be using an equal to. Okay, so I'm saying whenever this data item runs, automatically calculate the value of inventory because I'm going to use it, and then I would like to call it as item number. And this is important because this becomes your Excel column captions, right? So I would like to call it item number, and if I would like to call it, okay, there is a colon. Why there is a problem? Okay, let me see. Oh, did I miss this? No. Okay, let's try that. No, that doesn't seem to be working. The name cannot be used as an identifier. Okay, let me keep it as item number. Okay, let's keep it as it is. Okay, so this becomes my number and this becomes my description, base unit of measure, and inventory. I don't know how you do that, but I'm pretty sure that's possible. I think I should be able to do this. Let me try this. No, I cannot. Okay, so these becomes my report layout captions, more or less. We'll see that once you're done with it. We would like to have my Excel file. Now remember at this point that before generating your Excel file, make sure that you agreed with the data set that you have built in. Once you have generated your Excel file and user have done the creative bit that they want, you'll not be able to change this, because anytime you change the data columns that are present in the layout, you have to rework on the layout. It doesn't accept updates. So be very sure that your data items are finalized before you start working on your layout. It's very important. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl Shift B, which is a build process. The build process generates the app file, but also it'll generate a layout for my report, which is, I mentioned that it should be into the layouts folder, so it places it here, and this will be my layout file name. So here it is. Let's open this externally, which is on my Microsoft Excel. Once it kind of pops up into Excel, and I get some pre-built tabs. One is called as data, which officially will store the data that I have. The aggregated metadata, this provides me information about my report, from which extension it is coming from, what is the extension name, who is the publisher of the extension, version, and other things about it. Then it provides me other information which are commonly seen to be used by developers in their report, like which environment it is coming from. Is it sandbox, production, which company it is coming from. So you get all the insights that typically are requested on different reports. And it also gives you filters and request page options. Great. The data at this moment seems empty, but here are all the columns that we have listed there. The translation is empty because we are not using any translation at this moment. I'll explain you maybe in another video what this is used for. And the caption data stores all the captions that are available on the report. So when I generated here include caption, what I'll see, the actual captions of these fields will be available in this sheet when I run it. Now, people do kind of get confused that, oh, I see the data here, I should be using this. Remember, this sheet is going to be refreshed every time when you run the report. So you are not allowed to modify this sheet ever. So now if I want to build an Excel layout out of it, which my users can use, and they also would like to see the sum of inventory, I cannot use this sheet because this sheet will not give them what they want. And maybe let's publish this so that we all understand what I'm talking about. So let me publish this here, and let me set this report to run automatically when I launch this. Okay, so this is my report. Hopefully I've closed this. No, I should have closed this. Okay, I haven't made any changes, so that's good. So now when I run this report or publish this extension, which will automatically run this report, we should see what kind of output we get, right? Because that gives you a framework of how or what should be your next step when you are kind of trying to change the layout. So what happens when you run this report, that your data item gets processed based on whatever code you have written, and it kind of shows you this. Now this report layout is displaying what I have set on my rendering section, that the caption of the layout is this, and because I have set this as default, automatically whenever the user runs it, the default selection will be this layout. I can still do filters and all, and here on the advanced tab where you see maximum rows, this is 1000 because I've configured that here, that I think that my maximum data set size for this report will be these many rows. User can change it here, but I'm based on assumption that I was building, I think this is my count. So let's do a download because you cannot do anything else with the Excel layout. So when you open it, this is how it looks like. You get all the items that you have into the system, which is 77 at this moment. And then you see the caption data that is available because I have said include caption. So all the field and their captions are now visible here. And then the aggregated metadata tells me the extension ID, who's the publisher, and all those things that you might need in your report. But if customer says that I want to include the sum of the inventory, I cannot do changes on this sheet, which is the data sheet, because this gets refreshed and updated based on the filter that user applies. So this sheet is not supposed to be modified. So how we do that users can then, be able to kind of actually do calculations and formulas into it. So that's a very common requirement. So let's get into it. Open this file again. Now we know how the data is generated, and here is our sheet. Now the sheet which brings your data item, if there is only one data item, is called data. If there are multiple data items, then it refers the data item name. So it would have called item in that case. When you select this, you'll see that there is a named section for this table X, which is called data. So anytime all the data that is being generated into your Excel layout can be referred with this sheet. Now what I can do, and I know a very little basic Excel, is I can get in here on the data tab and then and then do a from table and range, and then create a new query from the selected table range. So I would like to do a different query out of it. So I select this and I say, okay, I would like to create a from a table and a range. I would like to transform this data. Now what happens when you click on this is automatically Microsoft Excel Power Query Editor pops up, which says okay, and you can see the code that on the source I'm saying that I'm fetching all the data from the data sheet, which is here, because you are not going to modify it and it's not allowed to modify this name. And then I'm changing some type which may or may not work in my case as it is. So I'm going to review this. My inventory, I can transform it to, let's say, change type this to from a whole number to a decimal number, and then I'll say replace current, which will just update it here that it's a number. Base unit of measure will be text, no problems. Description will be text, as you can see here, and number will be a text, which is good. Now if I would like to kind of not show some fields, or would like to do some calculations out of it, or would like to do any other things, like I would like to, let's say, let's try something. I would like to round up the value that's coming on inventory. Okay, so I do a round up, so you get a new step and the code is automatically written for you. You can do a lot of things from here. You can do a group by and everything that you want, transpose this data, reverse the column and all. So you have all the things that you can do here, right? So do whatever you need to do it from here, because I just want to show you how you can build an export to Excel. Once you're done with it, do a close and load. So when you do a close and load, it automatically creates a separate sheet called data2, which I'm going to rename as item list. So this will show me my item list. And as my customer would like to see, let's say, a sum of inventory, what I can do here is I can do a merge cell and say total inventory. Okay, and then I can just use my simple Excel and say, okay, sum of this sheet or this table inventory column. Now I'm not going to kind of show you other things which are very simple that you guys can do yourself, and this is how I would like to present this. Okay, sounds fair. That gives me a very good idea of what I would like to present to my users as a list rather than relying on the data. I would highly also suggest that hide the data sheet, because user doesn't need to know about it. I would like to hide everything. I don't know everything will be automatically hidden or not, but let's give it a try. Hide this, save this, go back, and let's try to publish this again. So now when I go to publish this, it now remembers that I have created a separate sheet which now generates do some calculation on my data and then loads it, so that I get a visual list view rather than relying on the data sheet with the totals in place. So now when I open this will open my Excel. Hopefully all of the sheets will be hidden and I should only see my item list. Okay, I did not see any value. That's a little bit odd. Let's go in here, see what's happening on the properties of this. Okay, so I did enable the background refresh, but on the query I can say that refresh data while opening the file, because if I do that, it automatically refreshes it and brings the data back to me automatically, so that nobody have to come here and click refresh. But if somebody clicks refresh, they see this, and at the end they see the total inventory here, which I can manually calculate and match that my sum, which is 3392, is matching exactly here. So let's do a final change on our layout, which is, let's go back to our Excel layout, and keep in mind that I'm not writing any code into my AL file to generate this. So I go into the query section, I go into the properties, and I say, okay, remember, whenever this query gets executed, it gets refreshed while opening the file. So it should automatically, and I would like to do fast data load if possible, and then click OK. Now, because this is saved and I'm going to publish this, it'll be saved as a file in my Business Central as a layout. The system will remember those settings which I have just set and will be able to generate a list of data based on what I need. So let's see what happens this time. Now imagine this, think about this and compare it doing with export to Excel route. And I'm not saying this is the only thing that you do, but there are possibilities to do whatever you do in export to Excel today, to do it in a better and a beautiful way without writing custom code altogether. Okay, these are my settings on Excel, which kind of takes some time, but eventually the whole idea is that as soon as somebody enables this, it should automatically get refreshed, which is refreshing. It's taking some time because it's kind of running at this moment, but this is what your user gets rather than getting, where is that, this plain boring file. You get something like this. And remember, I haven't written a single line of code to generate Excel file. This all has been done with the power of Excel layout that are available in Business Central right now. So this has been a request from the community, but if you have a customer request, or if you are upgrading someone who is being using export to Excel features in their report, make sure to switch them to Excel layout, because they are far better and easier way for you and for customers to do it in a better way. So if you are still writing code for Excel reports, try Excel layout. It's not just easier, it's smarter, scalable, and being aligned to the Microsoft direction towards the future. Would you like to see other reports with Excel layouts? You have any other thoughts? Let me know. I'm going to kind of do a little bit more into Excel layouts based on how much I know in Microsoft Excel, but do let me know if you think that there are other scenarios that I should cover to do this. If you found this helpful, you know what need to be done here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and join the team's community, which is sort of the Dynamics Hub. The link is in the pinned comment and the description. We can discuss things over there. You know, we also have BC open discussion there, so we can have that all. And of course, if your company, if you're a customer or a partner, need some help adopting these best practices, reach out to us at info@edhateconsulting.com or ping me on any social media. We'll be happy to help you. So let me know what you think about it onto the comment section. I'll be waiting to hear your feedback or other scenarios that we can cover with Excel layouts. Thank you and have a nice day.